So this today's topic is the finding similar sets. There are different approaches. How do we find similar sets? And what are its applications? Applications part we will discuss on Monday. Today we focus on how to find similar sets. Where do we apply this set similarity? Many data mining problems can be expressed as finding similar sets. So in our data science or data mining, most of the problems are also based on finding similar sets. That may be pages with similar words, example for classification by topic. So if you are given different pages, web pages, or even any text pages, can you say that how similar both documents or both pages? The one way is finding how words are common for them. Based on those words, common words, can you find out a topic which they are discussing? So if they are mostly talking about actors or let's see, some genre of the films, all those things, then we may think that both pages are talking mostly the topic of the movies. Something like that, let's see. Based on the words, if you see only cinema actors' names or cinema genres names or cinema directors' names or editing, all those things. So like that, it's say, can you find what are the words similar to both pages? Based on those similar words, we may say that they are discussing the same topic. Netflix users with similar tastes in movies for recommendation systems. So one of the application is we need to find out users based on the content what they post. Can we say that both have the same taste? Is it clear what I'm talking? In recommendation system, you need to find out if that user will not see the same movie again, right? So if the same taste, if a person with the same taste already watched that movie, if he liked it, then because he has the same taste with the already watched person, we can recommend to the other person who has the same taste but still did not watch that movie. So for that, we need to find out to recommend a person a movie who are persons having same taste. One, in those things, anybody watched this movie or not? If they watched this movie, how did they like it? If that person likes it, then this person also may like it. Is it clear what I'm saying? How do we recommend? Then we recommend that it's because people with the same taste liked that movie. So he may also like, so we will recommend that movie. Is it clear? How do we use the similar sets for the recommendation systems?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dual. Movies with similar sets of fans. So what we are looking here, similarity between what? In third one.
Similar fans.
Fans, a set of fans.
Means movie goers, right? Fans is nothing but.
Yes, sir. Follows.
So we want to find out which people are similar in fans. Movies with similar sets of fans. So based on if they have the same set of fans, see, first we will divide fans into groups. So one movie is liked by that fans, then we will also make the similar movies, right? Something like that. Let's say movies with similar sets of fans. So in other words, movies will become, first we will see that if similar set of fans are there, then we will say that these movies are of giving the same taste, belongs to the same taste movies or same genre or same types of things which will impress the fans, right? Same set of fans. Then this is much more important thing in NLP, entity resolution. Entities are nothing but noun forms in NLP. So we need to find out what is this sentence talking about. That is the entity. So in a sentence, what will be there? Subject, object, and some description, right? So this is the whole discussion is about what that is important. If you want to say that whether they are talking the same, first of all, they should talk about the same thing. So what is that same thing? That should be a noun. So can you find out that entities? So people can also use set similarity for entity resolution. So these are the important applications. It's at outset looking at these problems look like, oh, these are very simple problems, or may not be look that interesting unless we go and see the applications. So when you see the applications, you feel that it's how important this small problem. So people may think that it's okay, what is set similarity? They are looking whether words are same or not. Based on words, then they may define some similarity. Don't look at like that. It's you should look at the end point. Where do we use these applications? So that will give you some interestingness to put some, I'd say, more hard work to learn these things, because you are going to solve all big problems with starting with smaller concept. So that you should keep in your mind. All of the topics which we discuss in MMDS, mining massive data sets, they look very simple. Like in Google or PageRank also. Just it looked like if inlinks are important, if you can count how many inlinks, then you can give some import. It looks like very simple, but when the problem becomes very big and application wise, then it gives you that the one of the ruling the world, the IT company, is based on that algorithm. So that is the unique selling point for them, which other companies did not have. And within 10-15 years, it has become a leader, crossing over 150, 200 years old companies. So that is the advantage of it. Say, if you can get a good application, maybe the concept is small, but you need to get a turning application the whole world. Then that becomes a leader. So here also it's saying this, whatever the topic we are studying, it looks like a very simple, not interesting in the beginning, but if you look at the applications, then you will find how the simple concept is used to build big companies or big ideas. So first we discuss similar documents. So how do we find out if two documents are given, how similar they are? Given a body of documents, the web find pairs of documents with a lot of text in common, such as mirror sites or approximate mirrors. Application don't want to show both in a search. This is also related to a search engine application. Can anybody explain how they are using this application for search engine?
Words, sir. For example, if I'm searching a query, based on the input, they will search in web pages like what are the in how many these words are coming based on that. The frequency.
Yeah, I'll repeat my question. How are they using similarity of documents to make their search engine better? Answer is there. You need to read the first paragraph and the first dot point. How are they using this concept of similarity document to better their search engine?
Having common text in both the documents.
Having common
text or information.
Okay. If they have common text, what they do?
I mean, like, here they are trying to check having if they have common text in both the documents, then based on that they will find the similar documents based on it. Like
they will show only one search result.
Good. They want to reduce the burden on the user, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They give the same sites. First site, if he is not liking, then he has to go the same process to read the second site also, if that is also bringing the same content, right? Then he may not like, then he goes to the third one. So his search will become for what? It's a search engine will not bring exactly the what we are looking. It may give some pointers. The first pointer and second pointer, third pointer, if all are same, then you are wasting the user's time or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If he doesn't like the first one, then you should also go the same process, not to dislike the second one, third one, like that, it's see. Or if he is not getting the content which he is looking in the first site, he may not get second one also, but he has to do that process, opening that, looking at the content. That can be reduced by the search engine. So whichever search engine reduce such, it's see, such waste of time for the users, they will be leaders. So that is what search engines are using. That is what mirror sites means, or approximate mirror sites, which are having similar pages. So if they have the similar pages, your page rank is not considering all those things. What is there in the content? Is it considering that? What is the content of the page in page rank?
No.
So both may have a same page rank. Then you may go through by the just page rank. If you publish that page, let's say search query results, all those pages, if they are mirror pages, you are just wasting the time of the user. So that's why the backend itself, they will verify. I got 10 responses for this user query. How many are different in these 10 responses? I'll publish only them for the user, so that I'll save some time for him. So this is to avoid the mirror sites as search queries. Okay, that is one application. Then second one is plagiarism, including large quotations. How is it useful in general applications?
Copy paste content, sir.
Hmm?
In simple copy paste content.
Yeah, to find out whether people are copying some other's work and claiming that they did that work, right?
Yes, sir.
What is the second one here after plagiarism?
Including large quotations. Sometimes quotations won't change, so we will simply copy the same quotations whatever the people said earlier.
So they may claim that it's as if they are inventing that quotation as summarizing some concept, right?
Yes, sir. They are also considered the plagiarism.
The original person who started this quotation. Then you can find out, let's say, whether these quotations, maybe they change a little bit words here and there. How similar we need to say that, let's say, after we find, let's say, if they are 80%, 90% are similar, then we may say that it is just reorganizing the just words of the same concept. Then third application is similar news articles at many news sites. Application cluster articles by same story. What way is useful?
Usually, I have seen this kind of clustering articles in Google News. They are combining similar articles, put it in one label.
How does it useful to the user? Just we may not be right exactly saying only this is the use. Different people may use in different contexts, but try to explore ourselves that how do we use this? If they cluster articles by same story, will it be useful for us in any way? I'm just asking.
Yes, sir, definitely useful.
Yes, sir.
How?
We can get all the sports news at one area and movie news at somewhere like that.
If
they are discussing the same thing, why do we want many of these?
If you want to know more about particular one topic, we can refer those cluster of articles. Otherwise, if you don't want to know about the story, you can skip simply all the particular cluster of stories.
Good. So if somebody cluster them, you can take only one and you can feel that all others are also talking same. So you don't need to read remaining things, right? That is one way. So you are reducing your exploring to know the things. And second way, if you want to verify whether that news is same, then you may see 3-4 news articles about that, right? Are they talking the same? It's same. Story may be the same, but the facts when they are discussing, the facts may be sometimes misplaced or mischievously they may change, right? 1 or 2 topics, 1 or 2 facts to completely change the meaning of the document. Similar, they're talking about the some incident, bad incident, whatever has happened, but who is the reason for that bad? That is the fact. They may change. So if you see 10, 15 stories of the same story, or same incident, if all are saying the same thing, then there is no question of it's disbelieving that. But remaining story is same, but one or two facts, if they are distorting or not matching, then you may get some doubt. You may need to find out in some other means, or you may need to find out which news story is more honest, which news story is not. Then you may see their political affiliations, all those things, right? So one way to find out whether all are talking the same thing or not. Similarity is not 100% same. Remember that clustering is also not 100% same, right? Whether they are discussing the same topics or not, that we are getting better. One or two sentences itself may change the complete meaning of that. For that purpose also we can use these clustering of articles, so that we will get articles which are talking about the same incident. Now we will go and see that what facts they are bringing. Are they facts coinciding with all others or not? Or different people are telling different facts? So now we will get to the what essential techniques we use to find out similar documents. The first thing is the shingling. Convert documents, emails, etc. to sets. Then second one is the min hashing. Convert large sets to short signatures while preserving similarity. So we will compare whether signatures are close or not. So we will create each document to a signature. Signature means very small string, something attached to that whole document. So you may not need to verify each time opening the document what words are common. If you can get the signatures, then we will design a method that similar documents will get close signatures. Dissimilar documents will get far off signatures for them. So here the concept is attaching a signature for each document. Locality sensitive hashing. Focus on pairs of signatures likely to be similar. So these three concepts we will try to understand in this. Then we will see some of the applications. So LSH is the most of the times we'll use even in coming chapters when to find out frequent item sets, all those things. Again, we'll come back to the association learning, all those things. So then again, we need this short form for this is called LSH, remember. So whenever we use in future, LSH means this is locality sensitive hashing. So what is the big picture? How do we find out? So first a document will come. Then we will make shingling. We'll find out singles is nothing but characters of sequential or contiguous characters of length 5, length 7, like that. We'll fix a length, then we'll see contiguous characters of that size. Those becomes a shingles. Anyway, we'll define in a disciplined way what is shingle. So once you make this document into finding shingles in a document, then the set of strings of length k that appear in the document, that is nothing but here, the shingling will provide you the set of strings of length k that appears in the document. These are letters, remember, not strings, strings of letters. So which characters are coming continuously or contiguously of length k. Then we will do min hashing. So what min hashing will provide? Signatures, short integer vectors that represent the sets and reflect their similarity. Then we will apply locality sensitive hashing. So it gives output when you apply this locality sensitive hashing. Candidate pairs, those pairs of signatures that we need to test for similarity. Is it clear what process we follow? Three-step process this is. First thing is the shingling. Second thing is the min hashing. Third thing is the locality sensitive hashing. So those steps we will now study in detail. Shingles. A k shingle or k gram for a document is a sequence of k characters that appears in the document. Okay. Now example K equal to 2, document equal to AB, CAB, set of 2 shingles equal to AB, BC, CA. What is set of 3 shingles here?
ABC, BCA, CAB.
ABC, BCA, CAB. What is set of 4 shingles?
ABCA, BACB.
No. ABCA is right. What is next one?
BCAB.
BCAB. Whatever you find contiguous way, those two characters, they becomes your shingles. Is it clear how to find out K shingles in a given document or given string?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So represent a doc by its set of K shingles. So we'll represent a document by its set of K shingles. So first we'll find out shingles, then we'll represent document in terms of these shingles. Shingles and similarity. Documents that are intuitively similar will have many shingles in common. So if 2 documents are similar, then they should also have more common shingles, what you find from that documents. That is the first concept. Changing a word only affects K shingles within distance K from the word. If somebody take some other's document and they change 1 or 2 words, how many shingles will be changed between them? Only the shingles formed out of that incorporated word or deleted word, right?
Yes, sir.
Means large set of the shingles won't change. If they don't change, it's a large many words. Or even if they order the words, many of the shingles still will be common. At least 2 shingles will be common, right? With that word, whatever shingles comes before and afterwards may change. It's the border shingles, but it's most of the shingles, if the word is big, if you take only 2 shingles or 3 shingles, they'll be still common. So changing order of the word, removing one word or incorporating other word, it doesn't change much what shingles the documents will contain, right? Or will have. So that is the idea here. Changing a word only affects K shingles within distance K from the word. So reordering paragraphs only affects the 2K shingles that cross paragraph boundaries. We discussed it just now, this. Only boundary level you will get a different. It's if they change paragraph, first paragraph to third paragraph to second, only the boundary shingles will change. That is what he is trying to convey us. Example, K equal to 3. The dog which chased the cat versus the dog that chased the cat. Only 3 shingles replaced are GW, WH, WHI, HIC, ICH, CH, and HC. Is it clear? Can you try to find out what singles original one have and what singles the replaced one has? What are the 3 shingles in the first one? And see whether that shingle is there in the second one also. What is the first shingle in the first statement?
THE.
THE is the first shingle, right?
Yes.
That is there. HED is the second. Is that part of the second one? That is there. Up to the dog, it is same, right?
Yes, sir.
Only OZW, when you find OZW, I don't know why here they are writing GW. Okay, G space that is. Okay. So OG space is also there. Only you are getting G space W is not there in the second one, right?
No.
And here, because which is not the word in the second one, that's why you are getting whatever the shingles are coming out of these letters, which they are also not part. So G space W, then space WH, then WHI, then HIC, then ICH, then ICH. which. Slash or space ch is there, that is there. Again, you are missing what? Ch space. Ch space is coming from which document? First one or second one?
First one, sir.
First one, sir, which last two words?
Okay, ch space is also not there. And hc space?
H
They
space
also
and
found-
next in catch chases first letter, sir. In
First
first
letter.
document.
Okay, H space, yeah, this. So only this which word, whatever the shingles are coming out of this which, involving this which, and the space before and space after, that is actually making a different shingles for the second one. So one word is missing here and one word is added right here. What word is added in the second one? That. Missing is the which.
which
So if you find out all other shingles, then still most of the shingles are common when you compare with which are not common. Okay. So in that sense, we'll get that it's both are talking the same, at least in terms of the words. So that is how they use shingles to find out similarity of the documents. The main idea is changing a word one only affects k shingles within a distance k from the word. Reordering paragraphs only affects the 2k shingles that cross paragraph boundaries. Shingles compression option. The compressed long shingles, we can ask them to say 4 bytes. So again, if your shingles, if you take it, say k is large number, then it may take, because each character will take 1 byte. What is character memory? 1 byte, right? So if it has 20 letters, suppose 20 shingles, then you need 20 bytes. Instead of that, you can convert them into numbers or integers. Or that is what he is saying. To compress the long shingles, we can ask them to 4 bytes. So we will find out, which integer corresponding to which shingle, like that, And if they are hashed to the same shingles, then they are having the same words. So to compress the long shingles, we can ask them to 4 bytes. This is to reduce the memory. We always need to think in terms of we are handling the massive data sets and the large shingles. Then how much of memory is consumed? Can I reduce that? Always that aspect should be there when we are dealing with the views data sets and the problem becomes views. That's why he always brings this type of discussion. How much of memory required? Then how do we reduce that? So large shingles require more memory, and from small sentence itself, you are finding so many shingles, right? And all those things to be stored now. So it takes views memory. So in that context is discussing that, okay, if you feel your shingles are large and they are generated more and more, your memory is not sufficient, then you find out another way that hash these shingles to integers, which will take maximum 4 bytes in current system, 64-bit, and called tokens. So those hash keys may be called tokens. So represent a dog by its tokens, by its keys. That is the set of hash values of its k shingles. So represent a dog by its tokens. That is the set of hash values of its key shingles. So your what is keys here?
number of
Shingle is the key. Shingle is the key. Okay, because they repeat, right? Shingles will repeat, right?
Yes.
So single is the key. Okay, shingles is the key. What is the value here? He is suggesting 4 bytes means we are thinking it is integers, right? He is not explicitly saying you get an object which will take only 4 bytes. So which object will take 4 bytes? One of the thing is the integers, right? So you ask them to integers, each shingle. Then you represent your document in terms of the integers. So represent a doc by its tokens, that is the set of hash values of its k shingles. So two documents could appear to have shingles in common when in fact only the hash values were shared. What is the disadvantage with the hash? If at all, if any disadvantage is there. Different singles may have the same
hash value.
Then it's even though words are not same, if you go by these hash values, sometimes you may get for different words the same hash key and same values. So even if they are not common, you may think they are common, but that is the very minimal chance. So that chance is there. What is the complexity of hash table for search? What is the complexity of hash table for search?
Constant, I mean,
Hmm?
if the hash function is good enough, it will be constant. Then.
But in worst case, if you want to go by
In the
worst
worst case, it is same as searching in a linked list, big often.
linear search, right?
Often,
It's almost same to the linear search.
Yes.
So that problem is there still, but that is the very unlikely chance. In your Robert Sedgwick, he says that lightning happens that affects to our computer or laptop may fail, but do we stop buying the laptops because of rain comes, lightning comes, and this will blow up? Do we stop that? That possibility is there or not?
very rare chances.
Yeah, that is what he says when he discuss about the hash tables. Hash tables worst complexity is the linear search, but that won't happen. Very oftenly. It may not happen in our lifetime also. Most of them might not have seen the problems with the lightning. But we read stories in news stories that lightning happened, 3 people died, something like that. But we may not see it in our vicinity or in our lifetime. That like that here also. That is when you have the bad luck and your hash function may get into the linear search, but that may not happen. But they are finding universal hash functions. If you use universal hash functions, that is what these programming languages will implement. It almost they won't happen. But mathematically, people never proved that it won't happen, right? They will only reduce the chance to happen then, and that to almost zero probability to happen then. That is almost zero, not exact zero. Okay. So here, 2 documents could appear to have shingles in common when, in fact, only the hash values were shared. So we see that whether both documents have hash values are same. If they have most of the values same, then they are similar documents. But this hash problem is there. But most of the shingles, different shingles will have the different hash values only. That is what we can assume safely, because that chance is very rare. Okay, is it clear the shingles concept?
Yes. Sir.
The first step of the finding similarity documents is getting the shingles and representing your documents through shingles. And if shingles are large case singles, then we may need to take hash values or hash those shingles, then you'll get values. You represent documents instead of the shingles, represent in terms of the hash values. If both documents have the same hash values for their shingles, then they are similar. That is the concept here, which we discussed just now. Now the second step is the min hashing. Then here we need to understand what is Jaccard similarity measures and how to construct the signatures. So when 2 sets are given, the Jaccard similarity is defined like this. The Jaccard similarity of 2 sets is the size of their intersection divided by the size of their union. Okay. And if the first set has 10 elements, second set is having 20 elements. If 5 elements are common, how do we get the similarity of C1, C2?
5 by 30.
5 are common.
5 by?
So C1 intersection C2 is 5. Good. 5 by 5 by
30.
Total
25.
10 plus 20, right? Yeah.
10
But
plus
5 are
20
common.
minus 5.
Right. 10 plus 20 minus 5.
That 5 is counted twice because they are common. In 10 and 10, there are 5, and 20 also there are 5, right? Same 5. So that is 5 by 25. So that is how we compute. Intersection by union. Cardinalities they are. So how many elements are there in the intersection by how many elements, distinct elements putting together. Now example, Jaccard similarity for this is, how much for this is? Already given, but you count
3
on
by 8.
3 are common.
Yeah.
Total 8.
8.
3 by 8. From sets to Boolean matrices. Rows, elements of the universal set. Example, the set of all K shingles. So, universal set is nothing but set of all K shingles. You find out shingles in all the documents, whatever you are trying to find out similarity. Then universal set is nothing but all K shingles there. Then columns equal to sets. Then you will arrange them. They are nothing but they are arranging like in a table. We'll see that how do they arrange a table. So examples, the set of all K shingles like this they arrange will come there. But here, all shingles, K shingles will become your universal set. And your columns will become sets when you represent. How do you represent these columns? We'll come to know that. One in row E and column S, if and only if E is a member of S. So your rows are nothing but all the shingles. K shingles, K shingle 1, K shingle 2, K shingle 3, putting all documents together, whatever you find out. Now, one in row E and column S, if and only if E is a member of S. So if you are going to the Eth row, then your one in E, one in row E and column S, if and only if E is a member of S. Then column similarity is the Jaccard similarity of the sets of their rows with one. Typical matrix is sparse. So we'll see now. C1 is one shingle and C2 is, what is C1, C2? So C1 is one set, C2 is other set. Then 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, you are writing. Here similarity of C1, C2 is how many rows they have common elements. So here 1, 1 is one common and 1, 1 is other one. So they discard 0, 0. This is the same problem we got even in frequency, finding frequent items, right? We don't see that which items are not common. We'll see that which items are common. So the same concept here, we are not worried about if both are 0 zeros, then don't count as similar one. So if both are having ones, only count them as 1 ones. So 0 zeros are just removed from this. So then you'll get only 5. 5 out of 2 are same year. So elements of the universal set, the set of all K shingles. So columns is equal to sets. So your columns are becoming sets here. Okay, one in row E, if you take the first row here, one in row E of column S. So the first column you have 0 means if and only if E is a member of S. So you are representing two, if I see that, C1, C2 as documents. So if first shingle is there. Shingles are, what is rows here? Elements of the universal set. Example, the set of all case numbers. Columns equal to sets.
What does columns contain?
Okay.
Sets of?
Yeah. Column is the set. That set contains singles, right? So your singles are rows now. Okay. Your singles are rows, whether first single is the part of the first set or not. If it is part of the first set, you will get 1. So in this case, it is not part of the first set. It is part of the second, because your documents are now sets of singles, right? So now you are representing your documents as sets now. So now you see the document similarity with the set similarity. So anyway, so you need to see that here, when you get 2 sets like this, then in which rows you have all zeros, forget about those rows, remove from there, and remaining rows, you see what are the having same values in both columns. That will count as a union intersection, and which are not having same values for both columns, that will come in the denominator. So here it is 2 by 5. This 0, 0 we are eliminating, not to get here. So we understand more better if we take the how we are applying this for the document similarity. That will come in next slides. So given columns C1 and C2, rows may be classified as how many ways you can have for 2 documents or 2 sets. How many different ways you can see rows? Either both are 1, 1 or both are 0, 0. The first one is 1, second one is 0, or first one is 0, or second one is 1. Also, A equal the number of rows of type A, etc. So note similarity C1, C2 equal to A by A plus B plus C. So you can have rows of 1, 1 or 1, 0 or 0, 1 and 0, 0. If you represent all, the A is the number of rows which are having 1, 1, both 1, 1. B is the number of rows which is having 1, 0. C is the number of rows which is having 0, 1. And D is the number of rows which are having both 0 values. Then your similarity will become A by A plus B plus C. What are we not counting here?
Both zeros.
Both zeros. Anyway, B and C are differing, right? So that's
Yes,
why
sir.
they won't come in the common. So common is nothing but only A. A by A plus B plus C is the our similarity between these 2 sets, if you represent as a Boolean matrices. Imagine the rows permuted randomly. So this min hashing, so we are trying to hash these rows. Now we are putting it, see what assumption we are making. Imagine the rows permuted randomly. What is permutation? The first row may become second, second row may become third, like that, right? Permutation is continuous or permutation is random? So rows might be changed there. Usually permutation is the how do you arrange the elements, right?
Yes.
In the same order. But where do you start? The first element you start or second element you start as the first one. So it is cycling, but you may start with any element, then you get a permutation of that. How many ways you can permute a string of 3 elements? Your
3 factorial ways.
3 factorial. So 3 here, if you have n rows, then n factorial ways you get permutations. So n factorial, you may take any random permutation of that. Means any value of n factorial, you may take any ordering of that. Define min hash function HC, the number of the first row in which column C as 1. Define min hash function HC equal to, so C is your one set. For that, you are defining min hash function HC. The C is having only zeros and ones, remember now. the number of the first row in which column C has 1. The number of the first in the permuted order row in which column C has 1. So if C1, if you apply, HC is the number of the row in which C1 has first element as 1. So what is min hash of C1 here? Which row, which is the first row is having 1 value in this for C1?
Row A and B both has 1.
Yeah. So suppose if it starts with 0, 0, 1, if you take one permutation now, again it becomes 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1 will go at the end, right? For first set C1, min hash is still first row only. For second set, what is the min hash value? Because we are permuting means we are starting with B row, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, that 1, 1 will come down. Then what is the min hash value of C1 and min hash value of C2? Make it this one as the first row, this one as the second row, this one as the third row, this one as the fourth row. That is one permutation of these rows, right?
Yes, sir.
Then in this order, if you want to find out min hash value of C1, what will be the min hash value of C1? So you need to see whether first row has 1 or not. If first row has 1, its min hash value is 1, right?
Yes,
What
sir.
is first row in permuted order? 1, 0. So is first row having 1 for C1 in permuted order?
Yes, sir.
1. So even if you take this permutation, min hash of C1 will become 1. What about the min hash of C2?
Is 0 for the first row.
First row is 0. So that won't count, right? We need to get the row in which the first element, first time you find 1. So min hash of C2 will become what here? Second row, right?
Yes, sir.
In permuted order, what is the row? The first time you are looking 1?
0.
Second one, second row, right? In permuted order, I put these numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the second row. So min hash of C2 for permuted thing, it is 2. If you don't permute, if you take the same thing, for both the min hash is the same. So define min hash function HC, the number of the first, not number of how many rows have 1 here, the number of the first in the permuted order row in which column C has 1. Is it clear? Because it may confuse you later. It is not how many rows have number 1, right? It is what the number of the first row in which column C has 1. Is it clear?
Sir, here number means index or value of that.
That we will
string.
come at. See, I put index with 1, right? Starting with 1.
Yes, sir.
So that's why if you give numbers with 1, then 1 will become your first row. If you start with 0 number, then 0 will become your first one, right? So I'm not confusing with index. Whatever order you put the numbering, in that numbering, the number of the first row in which column C has 1. So in this case, for both, if you take the same order, if you take now min hash values, for C1 it is 1, C2 also 1. But if you permute these rows, like as I told you, you start with 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, make 1, 1. Then what is the first row which is having 1 in this permuted order? For C1 it becomes 1, but for C2 it becomes 2. If I start with numbering 1, if I start with numbering 0, then it becomes 0, 0 first case. In second case, it becomes 0, 1. So use several independent hash functions to create a signature for each column. So what we do is, so we will take independent hash functions to create a signature for each column. example, 100 hash functions we'll take. For each column, we'll create a signature. That we'll take an example and see how do we create. But concept is we will take hundreds of hash functions to create a signature for each column. The signatures can be displayed in another matrix, the signature matrix, whose columns represent the sets and the rows represent the min hash values in order for that column. So again, columns won't change. They will become still sets, but your rows will become min hash values. So that is what we will represent the whole matrix or whole table to signature matrix. So we'll take example and see how do we find out this. So input matrix. Okay. So the first step is define a min hash function HC, the number of the first row in which column C has one. So these min hash functions we are taking. Use several example 100 independent hash functions to create a signature for each column. The signature can be displayed in another matrix, the signature matrix, whose columns represent the sets and the rows represent the min hash values in order for that column. So here input matrix means initially there are 4 sets and their values are 1 0 1 0 like that, 1 0 0 1, whatever you got now here. Then in the one of the hash function min hash, if you take the first permutation or whatever you are getting. So this is the min hash value for as it is matrix. Three you got 1 4 3 input matrix. Then signature matrix will become, this is nothing but your permuted order if you assume, because we need to take random permutations right here. Define min hash function, the number of the first state. Imagine the rows permuted randomly. So random permutations. So your one permute means they are not following any order. They are just rearranging all these means random permutation means you assign 1 to 7 row numbers in randomly for these rows. So first time you are assigning 3 4 7 6 1 2 and 5 here. So now we need to find out min hash value for the first column. So what is the first column min hash value here? What is the first row in this permutation? The number which one you get 1 is that is first row. What is the first row in this first permutation? The closest one I am looking as the first permutation. Then the second one, it's a little bit distance after the first one, means before the first one here it looks. So if I take this color one, this is my first permutation. Okay, this is my first permutation. This is my second permutation, yellow one. This is the third permutation. Then in this, I need to get the min hash value for the first column. So now we will take the first row, right? We will see whether that is 1 or not. Is first row is 1? For
No,
this
sir,
permutation?
0.
So is second row 1?
Yes.
We'll stop there. Our min hash value will become 2.
2.
Have you seen here 2? This value, how you got 2 here in signature matrix?
Yes, sir.
So we take 3 permutations here. We are building a signature matrix for that. Okay. Now we will move to the second row for the same permutation, second column. So in second column, is first row is having 1?
Yes, sir.
So your signature stops there itself, right? Your min hash value will become 1 because we are looking which is the first row is having 1 for that column, for that permutation. So are you looking at here 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now third row, third column, sir. In third column, what is the min hash value for the first permutation?
2.
Because 1 is 0, 2 is 1, so you get 2 here. What about the last one?
1.
1. Good. So you got for first permutation, this is signature for each column. Okay, now you take the second permutation. This is your second permutation. Compute now. What is the min hash value for second permutation for column 1?
2, sir.
1 is 0, 2 is 1, 2 you are getting 2. What is the second column? Signature?
1.
Second column is this. In second column, 1 itself is the 1. What is the third column? 1 is 0, 2 is 0, 3 is 0, 4. So you are getting 4. What is this one? Last column, signature?
1.
1. Okay. These are all verified, right? Now verify the same thing for the third permutation.
1.
Yeah, 1. Because 1 itself
Yes, sir.
is 1. Yeah. For second column,
2.
2 is 1. Good. For third column,
1.
1. And fourth column,
2.
2. So how you got signature matrix? By permutations. You understood this? How they got this signature matrix?
Yes, sir.
From the input matrix. So you need to get the first permutations, random permutations. That's why he called them as permutation, random permutations. So you can reorder or re-index the rows in a random way. Numbers are same, but you're reordering those rows. That's all it's saying. When you reorder those rows, then you get your min hash values for each column for that permutation. Then your min hash values are forming your signature matrix here. So surprising property, the probability overall permutations of the rows that HC1 equal to HC2 is the same as similarity of C1 and C2. So this property, they are saying now, if documents are same, then there is probability, the probability overall permutations of the rows that HC1 equal to HC2 is the same as similarity of C1, C2. If documents are same, then you get your min hash values also same. That is the meaning of this. Is it clear what I'm saying? If documents or if sets are same, their min hash values also should be the same. Even if you do permutation for them. Okay. So that is the
Yes.
property which we are using. That is the surprising property what they found. Both are A by A plus B plus C. Why? Look down the permuted columns C1 and C2 until we see a 1. If it's a type A row, then HC1 equal to HC2. If a type B or type C row, then not. So what is happening here? If you see both the columns are same, means they should have ones, right?
Yes, sir.
So even if you permute, those ones will together permute, right?
Yes,
Your
sir.
entire rows, you are permuting them. So wherever you are finding, it's if they are similar, means most of the rows which are similar, they should also permute. So whenever you are permuting them, that is what here it is said, look down the permuted columns C1 and C2 until we see a 1. So even after permuting also, we are looking at, see, when are you getting this 1 in this column? Of course, it's here it is not rearranged. If you rearrange like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, immediately in each column, the first one, you will look, right? 0, 0, so 1 is 3, like that it's saying. Here, for the sake of not rearranging each time, they gave just index numbers here. So if they are rearranged, each time we will look in which row you are getting 1, first time 1 for both. So if they are same, look down the permuted columns C1 and C2 until we see a 1. If it's a type A row, then HC1 equal to HC2. If you're type B or type C row, then not. So this is the property which we will use to compare the documents. So the similarity of signatures is the fraction of the min hash functions in which they agree. So the similarity of, because we are taking random, so if they are similar, even if you do random permutations, you should get the same signature. That is what the idea here. The similarity of signatures is the fraction of the min hash functions in which they agree. So if you take the signature matrix, how many rows they agree, or what is the fraction of rows agree with the same values? So if you see here, which two columns, two columns will take and see their similarity based on how many rows agree same values, right? Or how many rows have the same values. So if you look at this, if you go by that, first two columns you take, how many are agreeing this?
0.
0. So they are not similar compared with this. So if you take 1 and 3,
2
rows
are
are
similar.
2 rows are agreeing out of 3, 2 by 3. See the input matrix. Can you find the same thing here?
Yes, sir.
3 rows agreed, right?
Yes, sir.
What about 1 and 2? If you see, we are getting 0 similarity here. You also compute from input matrix directly. Nothing is agreed, right? There are same values. Even in our input matrix also, any rows agreed for 1 and 2 columns?
No, sir.
No.
Not
So
yet.
that's why you are getting signature here. So you are getting almost same values whether you compute from the input matrix or the signature matrix. So what is 1 and 3 similarity? Yeah, 1 and 3 we already computed. 1 and 4?
No, not similar.
Look at the matrix, input matrix. 1, 0, 1, 1. 1 is actually agreeing here. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. 1 out of 7 or 8 are agreeing, right? How many are there? 7. 1 out of 7. But here we are getting, okay, that is very small value. We are also getting here similarity almost 0. Though some small fraction is common for them. So that is the thing which we verified here. That is what here it is explained. The similarity of signatures is the fraction of the min hash functions in which they agree.
But there 2 and 3 are not similar.
Where in this
2 and 4, sir.
2 and
so here it is 100%, but here for the second row, 0 for 2 and 1 for 4.
one second, 2 and 4, 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 2. Here from signatures you will get 100% same, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, from input matrix, 0 zeros we won't count. 0, 1 is 1 differing. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So 3 out of 4 you are agreeing, right? 0 zeros we don't consider, no?
Yes, sir.
Both zeros. So how many rows without both zeros?
3 rows.
For only 2 and 4 you need to say. The first row won't consider. Second row is differing, right? 1 differing. Third row is agreeing. Fourth row is agreeing. Fifth row is agreeing. And remaining things are 0, 0. So 3 out of 4 are agreeing.
Yes,
so
sir.
75% similar.
Yes, sir.
So we are not getting exact values, but it's in big data, what is happens, we may not be able to compute the similarity between this whole input matrix. This matrix, even if you want to store in the memory, it may take more storage and computational process, all those things. So we are trying to reduce this matrix. Still, we can find some similarity. Similarity close what you compute from the input matrix. That is the idea which they are taking. So we may need to sometime compromise that. You may not get exact similarity, but you are getting approximately to know how much they are similar, even by using the signature matrix.
Okay.
Okay. So here he says the similarity of signatures first is defining is the fraction of the min hash function in which they agree. Thinking of signatures as columns of integers, the similarity of signatures is the fraction of rows in which they agree. Okay, thus the expected similarity of two signatures equals the Jacob similarity of the columns or sets that the signatures represent. What is he using this word? The expected similarity. He's not saying that exact similarity, right?
Yes, sir.
Expected means there may be some error rate. Whenever you talk about the expected, it is error rate will come. If you say exact similarity, then whatever you compute from the input matrix, signature matrix, they should coincide same values. But here it is mentioned, thus the expected similarity of two signatures equals the Jacob similarity of the columns or sets that the signatures represent. These signatures represent which columns? These input matrix columns. So whatever similarity you are expecting the signature matrix, that is almost close to your input matrix columns similarity. So statistical word expected means there is again plus or minus errors will come. And the longer the signatures, the smaller will be the expected errors. So the problem is here, we took only 3 permutations, right? So if you take more and more permutations, then your error also will become smaller. So the basic principle in statistics is, as you increase the sample size, you think that we took only n factorial ways, there is possibility, right, to get these permutations. We took only 3. 7 factorial means very big number. So you are sampling only 3. So whenever your sample is small, there is more chance, more likely chance to have more error. If your sample size is bigger and bigger, you will reduce the likely chance of getting error. So that is what here, again, it is mentioned. Thus the expected similarity of two signatures equals the Jacob similarity, okay. And the longer the signatures, the smaller will be the expected error. What is signature here? 221 is the signature of the first column. 112 is the signature of the second column. If you increase the signature, how do you increase the signature?
By taking more permutations.
More permutation. That is nothing but you are taking more samples in other way. See?
Yes, sir.
So that will reduce your error. So min hashing example here, whatever we computed, here it is given. Exactly 2 and 4, you got 0.75. Signature by column, they are giving, and signature by signature, they are giving. So how close the values? Look at here with 3 permutations. The first one is computed from the input matrix. Second one is computed from the signature matrix. This one. So how close they are? They are not saying equal, right? But are they coming close?
Yes, sir.
Somewhat close, right? So he said, if you take more permutations or more longer signature, then you'll get okay. Anyway, won't go now. This is just example of how they computed. Implementation of min hashing. Suppose 1 billion rows. Again, we will get into our massive data. Then how do we implement this? Hard to pick a random permutation of 1 billion. First of all, let's say, how do you create a permutation of 1 billion? 1 billion should be able to store in your memory, right? Main memory. So if they are integers, how much of memory they take?
4 into 10 power 9 bytes.
4 billion.
4
So it's a huge number. Again, if you convert into the GBs, gigabytes, then it may come up to some value. More likely that you may not have that memory also most of the times. So representing a random permutation requires 1 billion entries. Accessing rows in permuted order leads to thrashing. So again, you need to access your rows in permuted order. That also a big problem for the accessing those rows. So a good approximation to permuting rows, pick say 100 hash functions. For each column C and each hash function HI, keep a slot MIC. Intent MIC will become the smallest value of HIR for which column C has 1 in row R. So actually he's trying to explain you don't need to do this random permutations. You find a method so that it's without permuting, you try to get where is your 1. If you permute like that, in that permutation, what is your min hash value for each column? So that is what he's trying to explain this idea. So a good approximation to permuting rows, pick say 100 hash functions you need to find out. So for each column C and each hash function, so H1 to H100 you will have hash functions now. And for each column C, HI, keep a slot. So for first hash function, you are keeping a slot, MIC. This is nothing but a min hash value of the ith hash function of the C column. Intent, MIC will become the smallest value of HIR for which column C has 1 in row R. So what is this HIR? So in original matrix, you have some number of rows. In our input matrix, we had 7 rows like that, it's saying. Then this HIR means that row. So value of HIR for each hash function, you are getting a value for each row, value of HIR for which column C has 1 in row R. Okay, MIC will become the smallest value of HIR, for which column C has 1 in row R. So IE represents your hash function ith one. Then what is varying here? When you are finding this value, will become the smallest value of HIR, for which column C has 1 in row R. So you are looking, that is, HIR gives order of rows for ith permutation. That is nothing but it's you are trying to create your HIR is for this row, for this column. What is the HIR? Is the row first time you find 1, that only you keep, instead of keeping all the billion numbers here. So if you look at here, what is the, for this, let's say this is, there are 3 functions, H1, H2, H3. So we try to find out M value for first row, that is I comma C, right? And first column, suppose. Okay, MIC. So this MIC is nothing but, so for this permutation, so you need to find out for which column, because different rows are there, HIR you are finding. So HIR represents, HIR means H1 R. For which column this is, what is the first row, first R, row number, which is having 1 for this. So what is the first row number in this permutation? You are getting 1 here.
Second row.
Second row. That is one way of looking. But after permuting, are we looking only, it's in permuted order, not going by 1? Then again, it is becoming 1, 2 like that, right? In that order. So you will assign, okay, what you do is, you have 1 to billion numbers. Some 10 power 9 is billion, right? 10 power 9, whatever that sum. Then randomly you pick a number. Then for 1, you assign some number in this, right? 10 power 9. One of the number between 1 to 10 power 9, you assign. That value is some R1, suppose. If R1 equal to 1 itself for first column, you represent HIR as that 1 itself. In that row, this R1, it's a 1 is mapped to R1, and this R1 itself is having 1 for the first column. Your MIC will become the 1 itself, HIR. So if you take here, 1 is mapped to where here? The first time 1 is mapped to column row number 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is mapped to 5. If 5 itself is having 0, then you will write here 1. If 5 is not 0, that's why you will represent only 2 here, because 2 is the first time. Let's say 2 is mapped to 6. 6 is having 1. So you will write here 2 itself, because 2th row will get first 1 for that column. So for each column C and each hash function, HI, keep a slot MIC. Intent MIC will become the smallest value of HIR for which column C has 1 in row R. So you don't need to do billion mappings. The first time, the first mapping for which you don't need to even store that billion it's a new permutation into your memory. You need to store that it's a, if you permute and if you select random numbers for 1, 2, 3 like that it's a, then whether that row is having 1 or not. If that row is having 1, whatever the number, you will stop that permuting. That row number you simply store as a MIC. That is, HIR gives order of rows for ith permutation. HIR gives order of rows per ith permutation. So what we do here, implementation for each row R do begin, for each hash function HI do compute HIR. So for each column C, if C has 1 in row R, if C has 1 in row R, for each hash function HI do, if HIR is smallest than MIC, then MIC equal to HIR in. So you will start putting as 1 like that, it's that is the smallest number. Example, I will take this example and see. Row equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C1 and C2, 2 columns you have. HX equal to X mod 5. So you are creating a permutation because 5 rows are there, and you are writing one hash function as the X mod 5, means this will give you exactly the same permutation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. GX equal to 2X plus 1 mod 5. So if you take GX equal to 2X plus 1 mod 5, what is this permutation? 2 plus 1, that is 3. First row will become 3. And second row will become 5 mod 5, how much? That is 0, right? 0 or 1. If we start with 0 to 4 only, if we keep, then we'll get 0. Then 3, 2, 3, 7, 2, 3, 6 plus 1, 7 means 2. You will get a permutation case. Then signature 1, signature 2, you are computing here. H1, 1 equal to 1. So your H1, the first row itself is having C1 as 1, right? And second row is having infinity because the first row is not having, means you may not find any ones. That is what assumption here. Whenever you find 1, you will replace with that value. Then G1, initially both values are infinity. In any row, you may not find 1, okay? In this permutation, we concentrate on this permutation. You are permuting 1 to what here, or 0 to what? X equal to row number in original order. So if you
Yes, sir.
permute 0th row, where it is going? Which row it is going?
0th row.
0th row. In 0th row, if you find for C1 1, you will write that row number 1. Are you finding in 0th row? Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 they put it. It's a little bit confusion here. So the first row you assume like that. In first row itself you get 1 or not here?
Yes, sir.
For C2 are you getting 1?
No.
No, that's why that will remain infinity only for C2. For this one, you are getting 1. So similarly, do the G1. If you do the G1, H1 equal to 1 modified, you got 1. Okay, no problem. Then G1, what is G1?
3.
3 mod 5. And are you getting third row? Are you getting 1 or not for C1?
Yes, sir.
G1 equal to 3 and signature is also 3. And you are getting even for C2 also 1 year, but your signature is still infinity. Okay, H2 equal to 2. Signature 1 equal to 1. It won't change. If you get a smaller number, then only you are changing something like that. Then this. So you got here 3, 3. When you got 2, you are changing this to 2. H1 equal to 1. For each row or do begin, for each hash function hi do, compute HIR. So how are you computing this HIR? HIR gives order of rows for width for ith permutation. HIR gives order of rows for ith permutation. Anyway, I'll stop it here. I'll resume this discussion. I think we need to go through this example once more. What is this H definition they are giving? I forgot actually this H definition. I'll go through it once again. We'll resume this discussion when we meet in the next discussion session. You may also see by the time the video, you might have explained very well in the video. Do you do that?
Yes, sir. We'll just check.
Yeah. So we need to understand what is this HI here. This example is not that clear, or other examples which I may take from the website, course website instead of this. You might be thinking that he is explaining more in the videos. So you might have left something here. So I'll go through the textbook and see that it's how exactly the definition of HI. So we need to get how he is getting this HI values, right? H1 1 you are getting, but this MIC values we need to get, the signatures. That we will go through once again. Okay. So any other thing to discuss, because this time is over, then I don't want to waste time now. It may be clear. Let's see if we take the good example and try to understand that instead of just spending ourselves.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I'll stop it here. As I told you, it's a Monday. We will have 5 to 10 minutes or 10 minutes, let's say, to see each team or 2 teams a day. what they did on the finding the web links which has MSIT. See, as a breadth first search will collect it. See, so many web pages, and which web pages are more important are having links to the MSIT web page. That you need to find out. So if you have any questions regarding that project, you can still ask. Otherwise, I can stop it here. Then we will see Monday. What do you present?
Sir, is it mandatory that we need to get 10,000 links? Because there might be loops inside the MSIT site itself, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
So
I said 10,000 is some number, right? Because you may feel that big data, you are actually working on a big data. That's all, let's say. If you don't get 10,000 links by, if you exhaust, it's only 2,000, 3,000 links, then you can stop there itself. Whether it is 10,000 is some user input, right? When your hash table size is becoming, or the collected websites are becoming more than 10,000, you'll stop. You don't do actually physically anything, right? You'll write a simple script that will open web pages in a linear order, one by one. If new links it finds out, it will add to the hash table. In the hash table itself, hash table of the web pages. So for on which web page you are finding these links, you will just add to that page, hash page of that web link, this link now. That's all it's saying.
yes, sir.
So
Sir,
that
but,
10,000 will become only problem for you when you are implementing the MapReduce. So initially I advised you work with 100 websites itself first. You don't need any MapReduce setup, all those things, right? Simply you can use the Python matrix vector multiplication. That is first step for you. When you get that, then you need to experiment. If I get huge data, then how do I get this MapReduce paradigm to apply and still get the values? Yeah, go ahead. You're asking something.
No, sir, I meant that like if we get some spider, so one link will navigate to the other. So if they are in that cycle, then
to avoid that spider, I told you store them in a set, right? Same web page you won't revisit again. We discussed that problem, right? Last time. I don't know whether you understood it or not. I know that it's web pages will have internal links. So whenever you are exploring the new web page, you keep them in a set. If that is already two sets, you keep, right? Sets to explore and sets to already process it. Whenever you are exploring the new web page, you see that whether that is part of the already processed. Then don't open that again.
But like suppose there are 5 web pages, and if I link those 5 web pages with each other, then so if I iterate, so every time I'll get only that 5 websites, right, sir? I'll not go out of that well of I mean that cluster, right? So
it's this is one page. It has links to 1, 3, suppose. If you end up with 5, then you will do your problem with only 5. MSIT website has only 5 links and no link is outside of that 5 links. We will end up with 5 links only. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So you don't worry about that. I said just some number. I'm thinking that it's even MSIT web page may link to so many other pages. I'm just thinking like that. I haven't verified how many links you have in MSIT web page. If you get like this, it's a link to 2 itself and link to 4 and a link to 3. First time, when you explore first page, you will add in your set. 1 is already processed set, okay?
Yes, sir. That I understood.
Add to be processed 2, 1. Whenever you add, you will see whether it is part of the already processed or not. 1 is already processed, means whenever you start processing that, you will add it to the processed set. 1 is part of the first, then you won't add to be processed set. You will have only 3. Then you will take 1 element from to be processed set. 2 you will take again. Then 2 will be added here. 2 will go to be processed set. Whenever you are opening 2, again 2 is coming. 2 is part of the processed set. You won't add that. 4 and 3 will be added to the to be processed set. These 2 sets you need to maintain.
Yes, sir.
So that you won't get into that it's a same link to the same link. There itself you are opening the same pages and this. So that is what I advised last time. Okay. So we will see that it's how do you, if you have problems, then it's if you can explain.